All right, guys, what's going on? So this here is this is a video that I really wanted to share with everybody because Blake is one of those guys that just has a very unique story. And if you don't know Blake, his name is Blake Hawthorne. His company is out of Arkansas. He's right around Kevin's area, about 40 minutes away in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Him and Kevin have become really good friends, and that's kind of how I met Blake. But I finally got to really meet him in person last week in Florida, and you get this vibe from Blake that he's a very unique person. You know, I really think that he's trying to help as many people as he can. That's kind of his mission right now, and I 100% respect that. And you know, he kind of tells his story about how he started and about, you know, all the struggles he went through. And he went through a lot of stuff. I mean, you would think having a $2 million company, everything would be great and everything would be just dandy and you'd be living on cloud nine. But that wasn't the case with Blake. So I'm going to let him tell this story. And, you know, one thing I want to share with everybody is he's very faithful. I mean, he's very into religion, and you know, God speaks to him, and I think it's just a great message and a great story for him to share with everybody. And after we did this interview, we were sitting in the hotel, and you know, I thanked him for you know, sharing his story, and you know, we talked, you know, personally for a few minutes, and you know, I was very thankful that he was there. And then you know, I needed to get to bed, he needed to leave, so he was going to leave, and he kind of grabbed my arm a little bit, and he pulled me kind of to him, and he goes, "Hey, can I pray with you?" I was like, "Yeah, I would love that." And so you know, we prayed together, and that was the first time in my life I've ever had somebody pray with me like that and pray for me and wish good things for me. And that was it was very touching, and it was just a great moment, and I will always remember Blake for that, I'll be honest with you. So anyway, I wanted to tell his story, and I wanted to kind of, if you got 15 minutes of your day, you don't have to watch this, just listen to it, and just listen to the passion in his voice, and listen to kind of how his business, his life kind of evolved. And I'm just gonna let it play, guys. We'll see you guys later. All right, guys, what's going on? Brian here with Top Notch. I'm here with Blake. It's his turf, and I just want to take this opportunity real quick and kind of talk about Blake's story. So Blake, just real quick, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got started with the business.
Absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Blake Hawthorne with It's His Turf. I'm a lawn and landscape, hardscape company out of Central Arkansas, based out of Hot Springs. And I've been in the industry 11 years. And so it's pretty neat. I actually started a company called Lawns for Tuition when I was going to college. And so just out of high school, I started that. And just what I did is I was getting my degree and everything. And so I finished up my degree right before I could become a firefighter. So I finished at the age of 20. And so I decided to go full force into the lawn and landscaping because I had 1 year to kind of kill before I started my career. And that's when I decided to change my company name to It's Your Turf. And right before all that kind of got finalized, I really felt, you know, convicted about it. Like God was saying, glorify me and I'll bless you, you know. And a lot of people try to talk me out of it just because of the controversy with it and, you know, everything. And so I was like, okay, my mentors, my dad, just different people, you know, just like, hey, you know, you're doing really good. I just keep doing what you're doing. And different stuff like that. And I said, no, I'm gonna do it. And so took the leap of faith, changed my company name to It's His Turf, and that was in February. And so by April, I grew from 17 to over 60 clients. And I was like, okay, this is new, this is fun, this is exciting. And things just started taking off. By August, I grew to over 90 clients. And I was like, all right. I went from having no employees. That season I had over 60 employees. Wow. And ended the season with 3 full-time guys. And I was like, okay, what's the plan? Because this isn't, it's not looking like I can balance both. Yeah. And so I got into the next year, and you know, early spring started taking off before I turned 21, and you know, I had this opportunity, and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait another year. I'm just going to stick with lawn care, stick with landscaping. I'll give it one more year, see what I do. And I grew to 150 really fast. And I was like, okay, I really like this. I'm really enjoying it. Started dabbling into landscaping, dabbling into irrigation, some stuff like that. And, it started to take off. So I passed up the opportunity to become a firefighter. Went into the third season and we grew to over 300 clients. And I said, all right, this is what I'm doing. And so I decided to just commit 100%. I had a passion and a desire for like water features, outdoor living. And so that's when I started really trying to learn that, dabble in that. And so everything just really started to take off. We grew to, I think, like 350, 360 clients that season. And I was running 4 or 5 crews. And everything just kept building and falling into place. And so it was really good, really exciting, and really scary all at the same time. And so we had grown the company probably to 8 to 10 employees at that point. And, everything seemed pretty good. And so we would, each season we'd kind of expand a little bit more, grow a little bit more, and all that would kind of happen. And, before I knew it, I was 9.5 years in.
Wow.
And we had grown to over 2,000 clients in our database. We were mowing over 385 yards every 10 days, running full-time landscape and hardscape crews. I had a lot of bad dealings with other contractors, so I decided to get into like commercial concrete that year. I decided to get into the pool industry that year, and it was hard. I'll be honest.
So basically, your first, what'd you say, 8 or 9 years, you just kind of mowed and serviced properties.
Right.
That was all before the hardscape stuff?
Well, about year 4, we got into the hardscapes. Nothing like what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But I started doing a little bit of waterfalls and, water features, a little bit of flagstone walkway work, a little bit of retaining wall stuff, and just dabbling in it.
Yeah.
Probably by 2012, 2013, I really got serious about hardscaping. I hired 2 full-time stone masons, and we started doing patios, retaining walls, and everything like that. And then in late 2013 is when I first started concrete, but I subbed it out. I had a good buddy that was doing stamped concrete, and I would just start lining patios up for him. The margin was better, and so I started subbing him out. And when a customer wanted flagstone, we do flagstone, but any other time I was really pushing them to stamped concrete. And so we had got into pavers, but pavers aren't a high demand in our area. There's a lot of natural stone, so people want flagstone. And so that's why we have done a couple of those paver patios, but it just never became a thing for us. And so, like I said, that started to take off. As those hardscapes started to grow, I was dealing with pool decks, waterfalls into pools, stuff like that, and we had some bad dealings with pool contractors. So I was like, I'll do pools. And so I started getting into pools. I was like, I'll just take that guy out of the equation and have a better experience for the customer, and I'll hire my own subs, and we'll be fine. And that's really when I started to kind of bite off more than I could chew. And that was year 9.5, getting there. And that's when things started to, for the first time, I got out of my comfort zone. And because of my passion and my integrity, I wasn't going to walk away from it, but I had a couple contractors take my money and run. I ended up buying out my good buddy that was in concrete. And he decided that this wasn't for him, for us to work together. And so he took my money, he left. And then some of my lead crew members left me and went back to work with him, and that was the start of a very difficult road. And so in that, we had some jobs we had to redo. We had to tear up and redo. I had over $200,000 worth of work lined up at this point that I didn't have the skill set really to do. I had dabbled with it, but I didn't understand it fully.
Yeah, so the contractor's gone. All your lead guys are gone. You have $200,000 worth of work lined up that, that you might not be as skilled as the other guys to do it, right?
Right.
What did you do?
Well, I attempted, went in when we poured. Luckily I still had a pretty good team. My guys have been working with these guys for about 7 months at this point. We had started our stonemakers together. We got into our commercial concrete, doing stamp patio work together. And I had some really ambitious young guys that were out there. And we started pouring. And we would do the job, and I had a couple times that a job would hold water, or we didn't put the expansion joint in it, or maybe this didn't finish out just right, and stuff like that. And I was left with either one, to leave it be, or two, do the right thing, suck it up, jackhammer it out, and redo it. And so that's what I did, and it cost me over $30,000 in projects. And so all that was going on just after losing all the money from a contractor walking away from a project, from another contractor that was a friend that I bought out and he left me. And then now here I was with this. Just after that, I had 2 audits come in. And it's like, these audits hit back to back, and it's like, God, what are you doing, God?
Yeah.
What is the deal?
Yeah.
And and in that time, it was, I started praying about it, and, I knew God was speaking to me, and he was saying, don't abandon your first love, because I was like, I'm done, like, I want to step away. And I had 15 crews, 32 employees.
Wow. And
it was a hard thing to do, and I was like, okay, I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to run the race with endurance, just like it says. And I was like, after a while, it's okay for a little bit, but after a while, you start to wonder, like, am I crazy?
Are you just spinning your wheels, or is this worth it? Is it,
right.
All that kind of stuff, right?
Right. And like, is there light at the end of the tunnel? Like, is this gonna get better, or am I gonna be here in 15 months? And I was working 80, 90 hours a week trying to finish these jobs, fixing jobs, just trying to meet payroll, $25,000 a week. And I'll be honest, my wife called me late one night. She's like, I'm packing my stuff, I'm gonna go stay with my mom. And that was a breaking point for me.
Yeah.
At that time, at that time, it's not only the fact about my family, but it's about my guys. My guys are my family.
Sure.
And I started praying. I was like, if this is what needs to happen, then please take control. And within like 2 weeks, my company went from 32 guys to like 22 guys. And this guys found other jobs. Guys left off. They were doing it organically. And I was like, okay, this is great. Thank you, Lord.
That was a good sign.
Yes. And I had a couple others I had to let go, but I have policies in effect, and they just did some really ignorant things, and I had to let them go. And we were down to 17. Within 30 days, we were down to 17 guys, and it's like, okay. And so we had put the brakes on 2 months prior and said, no more jobs. We're not lying. We already booked for the year, so we're not taking on anymore. And so, I felt good about that. Even though my manpower was down, I was like, we haven't taken on any more. We're just going to start where we're at. We're going to finish this one. We're going to go to the next one. And so that kind of what we started to do. And I started praying about it. And you're going to think I'm crazy, but I was literally driving down the interstate, and I started getting ideas of what my company should look like. And, these guys and this and that. And I was like, that's not my company. That's not anywhere near what I have right now, God. If that's what you want, like, show me a sign. And he's telling me that's it. And dude, I'm driving and I'm bawling. I'm bawling my eyes out driving down the interstate. And this car cuts me off. And I'm praying to God. I'm like, God, you just give me a sign. If this is it, give me a sign. And a car cuts me off, and their license plate, I have it on my phone, I'll show you.
Wow.
The license plate on the car says, yes, God. And I was just like I'm a baby now. Like, I'm just losing it. I'm okay. All right. And within like a week, that vision of the company that God had given me had become real.
So what was different between your company before and the company that you envisioned?
So at that time, so this happened a year prior to the downsize. And so I had a group of guys that I was trying to help, and They weren't the best fit for my company, but I don't give up on anybody. You know, God had given me a vision of what my company should look like. Well, I abandoned that, and I started chasing bigger crews, more things to do. I had this lie in my head that I was doing it for my family, and I was really doing it for me.
Yeah.
I'd abandoned my first love. I'd abandoned the things this business that God had given me, the vision of what he had given me for a company, and I was chasing it for myself. And so when he said, you know, don't abandon your first love, brought that back. And I had 17 guys. It's like, God, you're gonna have to do something, because I know I need 12. That's what you told me a year ago. That's what I need now. And that's what happened. Guys would start to, and I said, please provide them jobs. And these guys that had been with me that were family, started getting jobs and started, you know, going away one by one. And by the time we hit our slow time of the year, I was down to 12.
Wow.
And I said, okay, what am I going to do, God? You know, what's your plan now? And I'll be honest, I wasn't going to chase the social media, YouTube, any of that. I was going to quit. I started dabbling in it for my stonemaker stuff, and I was going to quit it, completely quit it. And I had created what I call the playbook, and it's just steps to success that I followed, a way of mentoring and helping guys, because you know, I had hit, I've shared with some other people, I had hit a severe depression in 2016, and I was having suicidal thoughts, and just a really low spot. You know, that isolation of entrepreneurship that we experience, like people don't realize the things we go through.
I think it's very important to have a support group, to have guys that are in the same, you know, somewhat same position you're in, to share different things with, and let people know that, hey, you're not the only one going through this. You know, you'll be okay.
Right.
Is that kind of what you're talking about? I mean,
yeah, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
And when I was delivered from that, I said, there's got to be something, man. Like, he's delivered me from so much, I've got to be able to give back. And so I created the playbook, you know, so somebody else doesn't have to go through that. Yeah. All this stuff that I went through in those 2 years was to help someone else. You know what I mean? Yeah. It wasn't for myself. It wasn't for this or that, but it was because God knew that I could handle it, and he knew I had a heart for his people, and to be able to go share it with somebody else so that they don't have to go through that.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people couldn't have survived that, and it's not to pat myself on the chest. It's just the reality of it. Yeah. And you know, it was hard for me to believe it sometimes. It was hard for me, like I said, to not just think I'd lost my mind. Mm-hmm. And so it was crazy. I was at church having I'm an emotional man. You know, I just am.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
And I'm at church, man. I'm just crying out to God once again, and I'm like, I had accrued this debt. I was at a $180,000 deficit. I was a debt-free business up until 2016, and all this stuff had started to accrue, and I was losing it, you know. Mm-hmm. And we were on track to do over $2 million in sales, and I put the brakes on it. My company went in half, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I started praying. I was like, God, I need to know about the debt. I need to know about, you know, we need to know about you two. I need to know if I'm supposed to pursue this or not. And the next song that came on was All Your Debts Are Paid. And I know it's talking about your sin and stuff like that, but for me in that moment, that's not what it was. Yeah. And I knew truly that was in that moment for God to get a hold of me. And it shook me to my core. And that afternoon, me and my wife went hiking. I was in the middle of nowhere. I was in Heber Springs, middle of nowhere. We're hiking looking for waterfalls, no service. Mm-hmm. My phone rings. I had reached out to Brian's Lawn Maintenance 4 or 5 months prior to this, and hadn't heard anything. And he called me out of the blue. He's like, hey, I want to talk to you about collaborating. I want to talk to you about this thing with Echo. And it's like, okay, that's the sign that I needed, you know, to do YouTube. Yeah. Because I was done. And I'd kind of abandoned that, kind of given up a little bit on that and stuff, and wondering what was going on. And then I went to GIE. And when I went to GIE, I got to meet a bunch of guys, a bunch of business owners. I got to talk to them and see what they were struggling with, what they were going through. You think that it's going to be all about, you know, the videos and the YouTube and what we're doing, but we're all real people. Yeah. And when you really talk to people, you talk to them like, hey, what are you doing? What's working for you? You know, like, what are you struggling with? And when you get down to the core of it in conversations, like, a lot of people have the same exact struggles, sure. The same exact things. And I thought, okay. And in my head, I'm thinking, I can share with him what I went through. And not that my way's the right way.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about that earlier. It's
yeah.
not that my way's the right way. It worked for me.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, there's more than one way to skin a cat.
Right.
But there's some core principles there that tend to work for most people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think, you know, that's very important for guys like you that have, you know, you've kind of been through the ringer a little bit. You kind of know kind of the ins and outs of the core business process that are going to help most people.
Right.
And that's kind of where I'm at with my business right now, is I'm just starting to figure that stuff out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think you know, however you can share, however you can get information out there and to help guys, and truly that's what most of us are wanting to do.
Yeah.
You know, we're wanting to kind of go on this ride and help as many people as we can. And I know, you know, just from talking to you over the past couple of days, I know you have a heart of gold. I can just tell you do. You know what I mean? I know you do. I know you know, and I'm the same way. I want to help. I like seeing other people succeed. I really
right.
do. And you know, I just, you know, I appreciate you coming on and kind of hanging out and telling your story.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit different story than what we're used to hearing, and I think that's good. Yeah. It's not the same old, you know, I worked, you know, I did this, you know, same old stuff. I mean, you went through some hard times.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about, I mean, some really, really hard times.
Yeah.
And but you're still sitting here right now.
That's right.
And you're like, you know, let's do this.
Yep.
You know, and that's always been my one biggest complaint about YouTube, is there's not one exact way to do it.
Right.
You know, everybody struggles, and just because you have failed once, twice, or even 3 times, doesn't mean you're not going to be successful on that 4th turn.
That's right.
You know, you just get back up and you get back on the horse and you take off.
That's right.
If you fall off, get back on it and go back at it again. Figure out what you did wrong, and you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's just kind of, you know, that's kind of my thing. You know, I just, you know, I mean, it's frustrating sometimes because you just want to get it out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
But anyway, without making this too long, you know, I really think you have a heart of gold. I know you do, and I know you're going to be successful in anything you do. I can just tell by your personality.
I appreciate.
I really do. So, you know, I appreciate you coming on. If you know, I really do. Anybody, check his channel out. It's his turf. You got a lot of good stuff on stone makers, which is a new thing that I've never heard of until you and Kevin started working on that kind of stuff.
Right.
Really interesting, different way to doing pavers and doing concrete. A lot of stamped work, right?
Right. Yeah.
And hand carving, and I mean, it's a whole process.
Right.
Which we really don't have time to get into, but we will eventually, because eventually I'm going to hook up with this guy. We're going to do some stone makers together, because I really want to learn this stuff.
That's right.
I really do. So,
That'd
anyway,
be fun.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.